Okay, get this. Imagine a city literally drowning in its own garbage.
Oh, wow.
So much so that a landfill collapses and tragically takes lives.
Yeah, that's a powerful image.
It's the reality in Kampala, Uganda right now.
I've read about the waste crisis there.
It's staggering. They're generating 28,000 tons of waste every single month.
28,000 tons. Wow.
And get this, only 40% is even collected.
That's a huge problem. Yeah.
Absolutely. Unmanaged waste, environmental hazards, health risks. It's a recipe for disaster.
And the economic cost is enormous, isn't it?
Huge. Uganda's losing like 1.2 billion US dollars every year because of this.
Yeah, it's a major drain on resources.
It's mind-boggling. But amidst this crisis, there's a glimmer of hope. A really unique solution they're exploring.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, the crickets.
You got it, crickets. They're using crickets to turn that food waste into a valuable resource.
It's a fascinating approach, turning trash into treasure, literally.
Exactly. So how does this whole cricket solution work? Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so basically they collect the food waste from the community,
Makes sense.
sort it carefully,
Right.
and then process it into this specialized feed for, you guessed it, crickets.
Okay, so why crickets? Why not, compost the food waste or use it for something else?
Well, crickets are incredibly efficient at converting that feed into protein.
Ah,
They're packed with it, 50 to 60% protein,
wow.
compared to, say, cassava bread, a staple there, which has like
That's a huge difference.
huge. Plus, they mature really quickly. Within just 8 to 10 weeks, they're fully grown.
So they're like little protein-producing machines.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, eating crickets, it's not exactly everyone's cup of tea.
Right, there's definitely a cultural hurdle to overcome there.
Yeah.
But the project aims to show the real benefits, the nutrition, the environmental advantages.
Ice?
You can eat them whole or grind them into feed for livestock, poultry. It's versatile.
One of the researchers, Dr. Buyaba, put it really well. She said, and I'm paraphrasing here, the food waste comes back to benefit us in a different form.
I like that. It really emphasizes that closed loop.
It does. It's a perfect example of a circular economy.
Absolutely. Minimizing waste, maximizing resource value.
Turning a problem into a solution.
Exactly.
So what about the people of Kampala? How are they reacting to this whole idea?
Well, the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
That's great to hear.
I read about one resident, Susan Kisake. She's really enthusiastic,
Yeah.
talking about the environmental benefits and how it could transform waste management in her community.
There is also a hotel worker, Venetia Masareka,
Oh, yes.
who's really keen on seeing more of those specialized trash cans for sorting the food waste.
Right, the ones for boiled versus raw waste.
Exactly. So important for the quality of that cricket feed.
And it shows the community's really on board, ready to make this work.
It seems like they've got real momentum behind them.
They do.
So what's next? How do they scale this up, make it sustainable in the long run?
Well, they've secured funding from Uganda Christian University, the African Center for Technology Studies,
Okay.
and the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology. Quite a few organizations backing them.
Impressive.
Yeah, and their goal is to move beyond the lab to industrial scale production.
Ambitious.
For sure. And to attract the investment needed for that, Florence Agwong, a grants officer involved, she's calling it a reference point,
I like that.
showing that investing in the private sector for these kinds of solutions can really work.
Makes sense. It's not just a good idea, it's a viable model.
Exactly.
And they're not stopping there.
What else?
Launching a dedicated waste collection program, publishing their research, developing policy guides, the whole package.
That's great to hear, a comprehensive approach.
And Dr. Sapuya, the project lead, he's got a vision, expansion across Kampala, nationwide even.
Wow, that's a bold goal.
It is, but if they pull it off, the impact could be huge.
No doubt about that.
Not just for waste and food security, but for Uganda's economic development as a whole.
Absolutely. It's a ripple effect.
It's incredible how seamlessly this project aligns with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
Totally. We're talking good health and well-being, responsible consumption and production.
Environmental protection, the whole 9 yards.
It's a fantastic example of how a seemingly simple solution can address so many complex issues.
It really makes you think sometimes the most overlooked resources, those little crickets,
Right.
they might hold the key to some of our biggest challenges.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's about looking where we least expect to find the answers.
So it's inspiring, right, seeing this project tackling these huge issues.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm curious, as they grow this program, what are some of the challenges that they might face?
Well, one big one is keeping up a steady supply of good quality food waste for the crickets.
Makes sense.
It all hinges on that collection and sorting being done right.
Yeah, if people aren't separating their scraps properly,
Exactly.
that impacts the cricket feed quality.
Big time. So keeping the community engaged, that's crucial.
Right.
And then there's the perception issue, eating insects.
Yeah, not exactly a common thing everywhere.
In some cultures, it's normal, but in others, it's a real barrier to overcome.
So getting over those cultural ideas
Huge hurdle.
and showing people the benefits of insect protein.
Absolutely. That's key.
And let's not forget the logistics, scaling up production like that.
Oh, yeah.
Going from a lab to industrial scale cricket farming, that takes serious investment.
Infrastructure, expertise, ongoing research, a lot to manage.
It's a lot to consider, but the potential payoff, it seems worth it.
I agree.
This isn't just about trash, it's about a whole new food system, a better one.
Exactly. More sustainable, more resilient.
And that circular economy, this project's a perfect example.
Absolutely. Waste is a resource, using everything efficiently.
And this model, it could work in other cities too, facing similar problems.
Oh, for sure. The potential is global.
It's exciting to imagine changing how we deal with food waste worldwide.
Yeah.
Less reliance on traditional protein, a greener food system.
And economically, it's a win-win.
How so?
Creating jobs, income for local communities.
I see.
Waste management, cricket farming, feed production, processing, the whole chain.
A whole new industry.
Potentially.
This project also shows how important it is to have different fields working together.
Definitely. Agriculture, entomology, waste management, they all play a role.
And you can't forget the community.
Absolutely not.
Their willingness to embrace this, to sort their waste, it makes everything possible.
It's the foundation.
It's a perfect example of how grassroots efforts, science, policy, they can all work together for real change.
Powerful combination.
And this small project, it's having such a wide impact.
Inspiring, isn't it?
It makes you think, even when the challenges seem overwhelming,
Yeah.
there are creative solutions out there.
There are. We just have to be willing to look for them.
To embrace new ideas.
And sometimes get a little help from some unexpected friends, like crickets.
It does make you rethink what those little creatures are capable of, doesn't it? So for our listeners, even if they're not facing a crisis like Kampala's,
Right.
what are some key takeaways they can learn from this project?
I think one of the biggest is to think outside the box.
That's always good advice.
We get stuck in old ways of thinking, but this project shows there's always room for innovation.
Even with something like waste management.
Exactly. It's about being open to new possibilities.
And collaboration, right? We can't solve these big problems alone.
Definitely not. We need different perspectives, expertise, resources. It takes a team effort.
And community engagement, can't forget that.
So important.
It's not just about a good idea, it's about getting people involved, making them feel like they're part of the solution.
That's how you create lasting change.
So true. This deep dive, it's been fascinating.
Yes.
A story of hope, showing that even facing tough challenges, we can make things better.
We can, and this project proves it.
And sometimes the answers are right there in nature.
We just need to be open to them.
Like those crickets who knew they held so much potential.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really makes you wonder what other surprising solutions are out there, just waiting to be discovered.
Maybe it's time we all look a little closer at our own backyard, see what we can find.
Just see those problems as opportunities.
Exactly. That's where the real change begins.
You know, it's kind of amazing, right?
What is...
We started talking about a city drowning in garbage.
Right.
And we ended up with these, well, tiny creatures, crickets.
And they might just hold the solution.
It's like those crickets are the unexpected heroes of the story.
It shows you what can happen when we think differently.
When we're faced with a problem and we don't just go for the obvious answer.
Exactly. This project is all about embracing those innovative ideas.
So we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
The waste crisis in Kampala, the potential of this food waste to cricket feed project.
Lots to unpack.
As we wrap things up,
Yeah.
What are some of the key things you hope our listeners will take away from all this?
I think the biggest one is that even small solutions can have a big impact.
They can ripple out.
Exactly. And it shows what's possible when you combine creative thinking with collaboration across different fields.
Like bringing together the scientists, the waste management folks, the community.
It's a team effort.
It's a good reminder that we don't have to wait for some huge initiative to come along.
We can start making changes ourselves.
With just a simple idea and a willingness to try something new.
And to challenge those old ways of thinking.
And this project, it highlights something really important.
What's that?
Context. What works in one place might not work exactly the same somewhere else.
Right, but the core ideas, being resourceful, getting the community involved, that circular economy mindset,
Those can apply anywhere.
absolutely, they're universally valuable.
This whole project, it's sparked something for me.
Oh, yeah?
It makes me think, what other things are we overlooking?
Interesting question.
What resources are we wasting without even realizing it?
I think that's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
It's about opening our eyes to the potential that's hidden all around us.
I love that. It's about seeing possibilities
Yeah.
instead of just problems.
And to not be afraid to question things, to push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Absolutely.
So, for our listeners, what's the one thing you'd encourage them to do after this deep dive?
I'd say take a look around your own community.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that people think can't be solved?
What are we taking for granted?
What resources are we missing out on?
It's a challenge to be more curious,
They are observant.
to really see the potential for change in the everyday things.
And you never know the next big solution to some global issue.
It might be right there in front of us.
Just waiting for someone to have that light bulb moment.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive, thought-provoking, inspiring.
I agree.
And I think we can all agree that sometimes the most unexpected solutions,
Like turning food waste into crickets.
they can lead to the most amazing changes.
Changes that benefit everyone, and the planet too.
It's a story worth sharing, spreading the word.
And who knows, maybe it'll inspire others to find their own unexpected solutions.
To those challenges they thought were impossible to solve.
Exactly. It all starts with a shift in perspective.
And a little bit of creativity.
And maybe, just maybe, a few crickets along the way.